Hello, and welcome back to 2 Minutes on Books with Patrice. Well, I had the privilege of going to two book festivals back to back. The National Book Festival, which takes place every year in Washington, D.C., was on September the 6th, and Petersburg, Virginia, had their first book fest put on by Resist Booksellers. Resist Booksellers is the first and only black bookstore in Petersburg, Virginia, and um, the owners, Demetrius and Selena Frazier, um, they are great people, and they put on the first book fest. They had help from the community. I mean, it was great. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So that was this past Saturday, September the 13th. So I want to talk about both of the book festivals. So let's get started. The National Book Festival, I really enjoy it. It is huge. Excuse me. It is always at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center in Northwest D.C., generally in September. Um, this year it was different. Even though you had long lines outside, once you got in, there were no bag check lines um, going around and around. You just walked in and you went through a metal detector, and that was it. So that saved so much time. And so then generally everybody is rushing to get to main stage, but main stage wasn't until 10 o'clock. And the person that was on main stage was the Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett. Um, she was there to talk about her new book centered around the law. And so that wasn't until 10, so you had time. If you came early, you had time to look at your program. Everybody got a program and a tote bag. And then if you wanted to go to the lower level to get books, or buy a shirt, or buy they had a table with, like, I call it literary paraphernalia, bookmarks and magnets and games and all of that. It was, yeah, they had a lot to choose from. So I did that. I took the time, I was able to just sit down and decide who I wanted to see. And after a while, I said, okay, I told my husband, we're going to see Amy Coney Barrett, because I'd never seen a Supreme Court justice before. So I went, and that was interesting. And it was in the main ballroom, and yeah, there were not many open seats left. It was a packed house. Um, but she was the only one on main stage this year, which was different. Um, so that was a change. The other change that I really like is all of the, or a lot of the family stuff, stuff for kids, or if you wanted to know about certain things like the Constitution or history, or I mean, the list was endless. All of that stuff, instead of being down on the lower level with the book signing lines and the bookstore, all of that kind of stuff was on the second floor, and families had options about, you know, where they wanted to go and what they wanted to do, and, all of the kids stuff and all of that. So that was great. That made it less congested. Another thing that I liked is that people could not get in line for author signing 2 and 3 hours ahead of the author signing. You could only get in line an hour ahead of time. So if you wanted to go see an author talk, then you could, and you didn't feel like you had to rush down to a line, and the line was already with 200 people in it. So that was different. I really like that. Um, so, and then of course, they have the food vendors at lunchtime that you can patronize. Some people brought their lunch. I don't know if that was allowed or not, but some people did. Um, and so it was a much more relaxed experience this year. Okay, so the people that I saw at the National Book Festival, I saw Chris Whitaker, who wrote the book All the Colors of the Dark. He is originally from the UK. And that was his first time in Washington, D.C., so it was kind of cool to chat with him. Next, I saw Imani Perry. She was just lovely to talk to. Yeah, just, about her books and the impact. And she said that Looking for Lorraine, the biography on Lorraine Hansberry, totally transformed her life. So that was interesting to chat with her. Then I stood in this author. Her name is Gianna Tobani, and she wrote a book called The Volunteer. And I stood in her line and, chatted with her. And then lastly, Jill Lepore, who wrote These Truths. She has a new book coming out. Of course, it was at the book festival, but it wasn't, I still don't think it's out yet for the general public. And, I told her, don't stop writing, So, all of these people were just lovely. There were other people there. Liz Moore, her line was long. Kennedy Ryan was there, and I heard 700 people were in Kennedy Ryan's line. Now, they give like an hour and a half for these authors to sign, but yeah, I think Kennedy Ryan was probably there much longer than that. And Ron Chernow was there. Now, I found out by looking online ahead of time that Ron Chernow was only signing one book, and that was his new book on Mark Twain. Now, the thing I don't like, it's up to the author, but the thing I don't like is when an author says, okay, he's only signing his latest book, because, that's what he wants to sell. But what about, he wrote a book on Washington. It's called George Washington. It's called Washington, a Life, and he wrote Alexander Hamilton. Well, what if his fans wanted to take one of those books for him to sign? But at least they told you ahead of time online. But right now I'm not interested in reading Mark Twain, and so that was a bit disappointed that I didn't meet him, but it's cool. And so yeah, it was an overall good experience. I recommend it. I do have book buddies that have gone to the National Book Festival, one or two times. I just enjoy going because it's the atmosphere. It's like I feel like I'm in my element, and so I recommend it. Okay, so the next book festival was the Petersburg Book Fest. It was located at the Appomattox Governor's School in Petersburg. No, Appomattox Regional Governor's School. Okay, let's get the title right. And so there was a panel that I was interested in, and it was under the name History. It's called Beyond Slavery, and they had Dr. Raymond Williams, who's a bookstagrammer. He interviewed 4 authors. One wrote a history book on Richmond, and prominent people that did great things in Richmond. Then there was Michael Harriot, who wrote Black AF History. Then there was Susanna Morris, who wrote the book, the biography on, and I'm going on memory, y'all. Octavia E. Butler. I forget the name of the book, but she was up on the panel. And then there was a gentleman named Jarvis McInnes, and he wrote The Afterlives of the Plantation. And so that was my favorite panel because, that's what I read a lot, that nonfiction history, especially, Black history. And so that was really interesting. I met Michael Harriot, and I met Susanna Morris. And of course, I met the lady who wrote the Black History book on Richmond, Virginia. I met her. So the thing I like about the Petersburg Book Fest is you didn't feel rushed. You had time. You had time to look at the schedule, and then you had time to sit between sessions, and it wasn't like you were rushed to stand in a line to get something signed or to meet an author before you went to the next session. Everything was spaced out, and everything was just so planned. And you had helpers everywhere. You had volunteers that if you didn't know where something was, everything was just so nice and neat. And then they had a room where you can go and buy books and t-shirts and let me see, books, t-shirts. Oh, there were vendors also there in this room. And, people were just, people were accessible. If you were in a line to buy a t-shirt or something, then the author that you just saw on stage was probably in the same line with you. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, everybody was down to earth. Everybody was all down to earth and so nice. So I really enjoyed it. And they also had food vendors where you could eat right there on the premises, and you just enjoyed yourself. It was a nice sunny day, and some authors came from far to be a part of this first book fest. And so they had other talks, people on stage, there were a couple of people that were there that were self-published authors that were successful at it. And so they talked about that and their process and all. And then there was a romance session that was going on at the same time as the history session. And a lot of people went to that. That's, not my thing, but, that seemed to be popular right now. And so, yeah, that's basically all I have to say about that. So, Petersburg will be having the book fest again the next year since this was such a success. I heard like 1,800 people came. And of course, the National Book Festival will probably continue on. So, if you have not gone to one, I heard that this week the Brooklyn Book Fest is going on. I heard that recently Mississippi, there was a Mississippi Book Festival that a lot of the booktubers or bookstagrammers went to and met authors. And so, yeah, if you ever get a chance to go, please do, if you are a book lover. And authors don't mind you bringing your own copies of books. Not everybody can afford not everybody can afford to pay full price at the book festival for books. But if you already have your own copy on the shelf and you just want to meet the author and get them to sign their book and chat with them for a second or two, then, that is allowed. So anyway, that's all I have to say. And yeah, if you haven't gone, please do a search and see if there are any book festivals in your state or your area. And then, yeah, tell us about it. All right. Thanks for watching. Until next time.